So very soon, Apple are going to be rolling out their new iOS update where it will ask all users whether they want to allow this app to track their activity. However, you may have noticed, if you're using an iPhone, you may have noticed that some apps have already started to ask you this question, even though this feature hasn't officially released yet. And the reason for this is because some apps are already preparing for this new update. So to get ahead of the update, they're asking you these questions now, and they're seeing how people are responding. Now, this article on AppFlyer is actually a really good one, and I wanted to pull it up here and share it with you because it actually gives us some data on how people are reacting to this message. And I just wanted to share with you some of the things that I found. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole article, but I'm going to include a link in the description of this video if you want to check it out and go into more detail. But I'm just going to give you the highlights in this video. So the first thing to keep in mind is that before any of this happened, there were actually estimates, which you can see here, which were as low as 2% and as high as 20%. So people thought in worst case scenario, 2% of the people are going to accept this, or best case scenario, 20% of people that see this message are going to accept this. But what they found with the data so far is that so far around 41%, or at least 41% of the people that are seeing this message are actually accepting to get personalized ads. So that's what I wanted to go through in a little bit more detail in this video. Now, just a few things to keep in mind is that this was data from around 300 apps. And then from those 300 apps, there were millions of users that saw this message. It was actually about 13 million users in total that saw this. Now, 13 million might sound like a lot of people, but it's still relatively small compared to the amounts of people that are on the App Store and using iPhones. So it's not a huge amount of data in terms of what the potential will be once this actually gets rolled out everywhere. But it does give us a little bit of a taste as to how people are reacting, at least on a smaller scale. And also 13 million isn't such a tiny number where the data is going to be insignificant. So it does give us a pretty good indication as to what is likely to happen in the future. But of course, you know, anything can change, anything can happen as more people start to see this message. Now, it's got some interesting stats on the categories. So you can see certain categories like utilities, so apps around, you know, utilities and everyday things that you might do, tend to get a better opt-in rate for people who are accepting personalized ads, whereas things like gaming and stuff like that tend to be more on the low end, so less people tend to accept those. So one thing that I think will help is to optimize the opt-in rate. So for any apps that want to get more people to opt in so that they can generate more revenue from personalized ads, it's important, I think, to customize the message that they say. So when the message displays on someone's phone, they see something like this, right? But what can actually be changed is everything in this box here. So whatever isn't in bold. And what I've seen work really well is a customized message, something that actually lets people know that they're still going to see the same amount of ads. So just because they click on Ask App Not to Track doesn't mean that they're not going to see any ads. They're still going to see ads. The only difference is the ads will be more personalized to them. So because you can customize this bit here, and here are a few examples. This was actually, this one here, this was the one that I saw when I was using my phone and it popped up. And I thought this one was really good because in this one, it actually says what I just mentioned, that that if you prohibit access to this, you will continue to see the same amount of ads, but they will not be tailored to your needs. So people could think, well, if I'm still going to see the same amount of ads, I might as well just opt in and see personalized ads rather than non-personalized ads. At least that way it will be a little bit more relevant. So that's something that I think will help for the apps to implement that custom message to try and get more people to actually accept it. So let me just scroll down to the bottom line. So at the end of the day, with this update, the good news is that it does show that it's not really going to be as bad as a lot of people thought when it comes to the opt-in rate. Some people getting personalized ads with these apps. The bad news is that this is still not everyone using the apps on their iPhone and on Apple products. So even though it's a lot of users, it's still not the whole amount, right? It's still a very small percentage of the amount of users that are using iPhones and apps and things like this. So these numbers could change as it rolls out to more people. But so far, it doesn't look like the opt-in rate is as bad as everyone thought it was going to be. And as I explained in some of my other videos, depending on the type of business you have, this may affect you more than another type of business. So for example, if you have an app-based business, or your business relies heavily with ads on apps through Facebook ads, then yes, this is something that's most likely going to affect you a little bit more, compared to if you have a business where you don't have an app and you're not relying on ads on apps for you to be able to get in front of the right people. In that case, then you won't really be too affected by this. And I go into more detail why this is in one of my other videos, where I go into more detail about how this update works and how it will affect you, and whether it will affect your type of business or not. But if you're, just so you know right now, if your goal is to generate leads, appointments, and clients, then chances are you're not going to be too worried about all of these changes, because you don't really have an app-based business. So this is really just for app-based businesses. It will have some small effect on businesses that are not app-based, because Facebook won't have as much data as they did before. But at the same time, there's still a lot of data that Facebook does have outside of apps, and that's what it uses to show you ads that are relevant to you. And again, I've got a video that goes through how that all works in more detail. If you're interested in checking that out, just have a look at the description of this video and you can see a link to that video. But that's pretty much it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.